Happy Tuesday and almost Merry Christmas. Welcome to Heart and Mind with Dr. Dina McMillan. And yes, I'm Dr. Dina McMillan. And we have an interesting show today. I won't say it's exciting because it's a tough topic, but it's something so many of us have to deal with this time of the year. Now, I've had to deal with this personally and professionally. So today we're going to talk about why the holidays can hit harder than we expect. It's a tough topic, but it's timely, and we're not at Christmas yet, so there's still time to fix some things before we get to the big day. So please, we are on every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I welcome you all. And if you're watching this recorded, please know you can watch this live at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you sign in on whatever platform you watch it live, you can also put comments, ask questions, and have them answered right away during the show. 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Now, I have a lot of Australians who are watching the show, and in Australia, it is actually Wednesday morning. So it's Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. or 10 a.m., depending on where you are. Sydney's a little different. I have some UK people, and I want to welcome them as well, even though they are insomniacs because it's 1 o'clock in the morning in London. But a lot of people watch it recorded. So please know you have an option of watching it recorded. I usually upload the episodes on my X page, but you can also watch the episodes, the recorded episodes on Rumble, Daily Clout, and YouTube. So tell everyone about this because we talk about things here from an angle that no one else touches. And that's because I'm a social psychologist. Social psychology is not just about being a psychologist with a larger group of people. We study the brain, the mind, how the mind works on all the different levels, the processing of the brain. And we look at how we learn, how we're influenced, persuaded, manipulated, coerced, indoctrinated, and even brainwashed. If you've watched the show before, you know that the way I talk about things and the information I give you allows you to go through your life and see those strings of manipulation that are everywhere in our society, but were probably invisible to you before. We will point them out, and we talk about what you can do to protect yourself and your loved ones from unfair influence and manipulation from people who want to exploit you for some reason. That includes marketers who try to get you to buy things you really don't need or things that aren't healthy. It includes politicians who try to get you to vote for people you really can't trust. If you gamble, and you go into a casino or any gambling venue, social psychologists were behind a lot of the way those machines operate, and they're designed to keep you gambling longer than you should, spending more than you have. I want you to stay safe. So I decided rather than to join the team of people exploiting the public, I would actually point out what is being done and help you keep yourself and your loved ones safe. Now, speaking of keeping yourself and your loved ones safe, if you don't have a Christmas present, or even if you do, here's a wonderful Christmas present for everyone in your family that wants to know what's going on in the world. Go on Amazon, get them a copy of the Pfizer papers. Now, the Pfizer papers contains information that Pfizer went to court to try to keep secret for 75 years. The court said no, but it's a lot of paperwork. It's very detailed. It's very specific. So Dr. Naomi Wolf, Amy Kelly, and their team spent years going through it and figuring out exactly what was going on and when it was going on. This is a gift for all of us because at the time I am recording this, not one person who was behind the COVID pandemic and all of the damage that it caused worldwide, not one person has gone to jail for it, which means the probability of something similar happening again is pretty high unless we stop them. And we have to know the tactics in order to be able to prevent something like that from happening again. So get your copy of the Pfizer papers. Now, in the meantime, I'm hoping that you're just looking at this show out of just interest, because this isn't something that's relevant to you now. You always have a happy holiday, things go well, but in case they don't, or if you know someone who could use this information, this isn't much time out of your life. It's worth watching, listening, thinking about how it affects you or the person you're thinking about. Because for a lot of people, the holidays hit harder than we expect, and we need to know what to do about it. Now, one of the things I want to say directly to you about the holidays, if I could give one piece of information to everyone, it's don't go into the holidays without planning ahead. If you look at previous episodes where I talk about family gatherings on this show, nothing I said was specific to a particular time point or a political party or a person who looks a certain way or votes a certain way. It talks about basic keys to improve the probability that family gatherings go well. And the one thing you have to do, you really need to plan ahead. Don't just go in blind. Many of us have family members where we're crossing our fingers at family events because we've had so many family events ruined by somebody who's moody or somebody who decides to get angry at something that wasn't even said, or somebody is bringing someone new and someone else decides, hey, let's do and say things to embarrass our family member. There can be a lot of things that go wrong. So please, it's pretty easy to plan ahead. And I feel this is part of that planning ahead. We're going to talk about the fact if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed by the holidays this year, what it means and what you can do about it. So I want you to stay with me. Every major financial collapse has been preceded by the same 7 warning signs. Before the Great Depression, before the 1970s stagflation, before the crash of 2008. Now, all 7 are flashing red again for the first time in over 15 years. American Alternative Assets just released a free report called the Bellwether Signal. It breaks down each of these signals and shows how to protect your retirement before the next wave hits. In times of uncertainty, gold has always been the ultimate safe haven. It held strong in 2008. It surged during the inflation crisis of the 1970s, and it remains one of the few assets not tied to political manipulation or a central bank policy. Find out why central banks are buying it in record amounts, and now you can too. Call 855-803-GOLD or visit cloutgold.com to get your free copy of the Bellwether Signal. That's 855-803-GOLD or cloutgold.com. Learn the signs, protect your savings, make your move while you still can. Now, let's be honest. I don't know about you. I get excited every Christmas because I love Christmas decorations. I love the lights. I love the smells and the sounds. Um, right before COVID hit, my daughter and I went to Paris for Christmas, and we were staying right down the street from the Louvre. And the Opera House had the most beautiful decorations I've ever seen anywhere. The whole street was so stunning. It was awe-inspiring. I love Christmas decorations. And for any of you in the audience, if you're one of those people who takes the time to put Christmas decorations in your yard or even around your front door, thank you. Because for people like me, it brings so much joy when I go down the street and I see the Christmas decorations. It's just wonderful. I also like watching It's a Wonderful Life. I like starting with Thanksgiving, all of the pumpkin pie spice things that come out and all gingerbread and the kids getting all excited and Santa Claus everywhere. I love the Christmas season. However, you may not be feeling the joy of the season. Sometimes we feel a heaviness during the season. Now, I know for myself, when my daughter was really small, I was in college first and then graduate school. And the challenge I had was this. I was as broke as a church mouse, okay? No money at all. But every ad that she saw on children's shows had for around the Christmas season, had a huge Christmas tree that was halfway filled with Christmas gifts for the kids. And it's interesting, when I first moved to Australia, I noticed that Australia doesn't, well, it didn't. It's getting worse, but it didn't have the same emphasis on just buying things for Christmas. Christmas was more about spending time with family, like Thanksgiving is in the United States. But what happened is this: over the last 15 years, they've started having more and more American corporations, Target, Kmart, all of these organizations, corporations going into Australia and running the same ads they run in the United States, only with a voiceover with an Australian accent. So those same ads with the whole living room filled to brimming with gifts are influencing Australian kids too. The challenge you have with that is that when I was first in Australia and they hadn't done that yet, I actually sat down and figured out how much it would cost to buy all of the gifts being advertised in a single commercial break around Christmas time. Now, I did not count cars, but other than cars, how much would it cost? And then when I got back to the States with my family, I did the same thing. And at that point, and remember this, we're talking about the 2006s, 7s, around then. If you'd purchased everything in the commercial break in Australia, it would have cost you about $800. If you purchased everything being advertised in the commercial break in the United States, it would cost you about $12,000. So all of the demands and expectations of the Christmas season, the New Year's, the New Year coming, is it going to be any better than this year? All of that can make people feel less than joyful at this season. We're going to talk about that. And as always, we're going to talk about not only what it means, so you understand, because understanding takes a lot of the stigma and the fear away from experiencing something. But we can also talk about what you can do to alleviate the symptoms. Now, we're going to talk about why. Why does this happen to you? Now, I know, as I said, for myself, there were two things. Emotionally erratic family members, so I never knew when I went for Christmas or any kind of family gathering if everyone was going to behave themselves. So sometimes things got really ugly, and that would just, so I was always bracing myself. But we also had the real emphasis on spending way more than you can afford. Or you have families where whether it's Christmas or Hanukkah, where you have gift expectations that are above your budget, or the person's not specific enough, or they're super picky, and if you give them something other than exactly what they wanted, they embarrass you. I mean, there can be a lot of things. So we're going to talk about the why, because I want you to understand why, what's going on. It does not mean there's something wrong with you. Okay. So there's something called the stacking effect. This is what happens. And for all of you where the Christmas celebration is happening at your house, if you have family coming over for Christmas at your house, this is especially relevant to you. The stacking effect. Now, what is that? That means when you have different unresolved issues piling on top of each other. I mentioned too for myself, not being able to trust that people were going to behave themselves, stacked on top of not having the finances to get my daughter everything she wanted for Christmas, and not knowing how she was going to behave if she didn't get what she wanted. Not being able to get gifts for all my family because I could barely keep the lights on. I mean, we're going to talk about some of the things that stack up and what they can do to you. But it's called a stacking effect. And I like giving it a name because it keeps it from being personalized. So if you're feeling less than blissful, if you are feeling a bit overwhelmed, if you say, okay, that's just because of the stacking, there's just so much going on. If you can name it, set it over there. It keeps it from being about you. It's about the phenomena of what's going on in your life. It is not a personal weakness for you. So what happens during the holiday seasons? We have memories. So we're remembering the Christmas before last, or last Christmas, or something at Thanksgiving, or when we were kids and things aren't as good anymore, or, responsibilities. Because what happens every Christmas, we get the additional responsibility of handling Christmas. And if you're in the United States, the additional responsibility of handling Thanksgiving too, that comes just a month before Christmas. So there are all these added responsibilities, but nobody's taking your regular responsibilities away. You don't get a break where it's like, okay, you don't have to handle your job anymore. You don't have to handle the kids anymore for this next month. You just think about Christmas. Nobody does that. So expectations. Am I going to be able to meet everybody's expectations? Pressure and awareness. They all start to pile up. They stack up. Remember, we're talking about the stacking effect. So all of this starts to stack up. And then there could be memory and grief. I know I was thinking this week about my parents, both of whom have passed, thinking about, my dad and all the effort he would put in to smoke the turkeys and make the dressing, and it could make you really sad. Who's missing? Being estranged from my sisters because they don't agree with me politically. I've talked about that before. At this time of year, it's especially painful because I can remember so many years when we've all gotten together. I remember one year where my sisters and I, we went out, after everybody had the dinner, and we went wandering around, and we just ended up laughing so hard and having a great time. And then I look at now and the comparison. So when you're looking at your Christmas table, who's missing? Well, for me, it's everybody. Other people, it's a loved one that's not here anymore. Maybe they're not passed away. Maybe they're just moved away and they're not able to make it back for Christmas. Because we all know, I know this from having flown my daughter out to visit me in Australia every year, that airfare tripled during the Christmas season. So if you don't have triple the amount, and that doesn't count anything that happens, entertainment, anything that's going to happen during the visit. So if you don't have triple the amount of money to pay for the airfare, you often can't get together over Christmas, and that can be very painful. Now, also, oh man, did we see this? Unresolved issues reemerge. And especially if anybody's going through a hard time, often their family are the ones they take it out on. Have you noticed that? Now, by the way, if you are watching this live and any of this is relevant to you, sign in, ask a question, make a comment. How does your family deal with this? Because unresolved issues tend to reemerge during times like Christmas, Hanukkah, Thanksgiving. It happens during family reunions and weddings. And it's one of the reasons I would advise you, please go back to previous episodes of Heart and Mind. You can find them on Rumble, Daily Clout, go YouTube. Look at the episodes that I put together around the holidays, because I offer specific plans of action to minimize the risk of everything going wrong on the day. And if you are planning a wedding, it could probably work there too. But these issues reemerge, people get angry, big argument, kids start crying, you know. Because of having so much additional responsibility, because of the expectations of the season and of the day, things you have to do physically. It's not just about money or having enough money. Even if you have all of the money in the world, you still have to make sure that everybody gets their gift. And you still have to put some steps in place to try to make sure that people get what they really wanted. So that takes effort. So that's labor, it's responsibility, and it all comes to a head over Christmas. And again, the time and money pressures escalate because it's also the end of the financial year. So if you are in a certain position, management-wise, in your company or corporation, if you have your own business, I have my own business. This is a tough time of the year because I have to gather all my paperwork, submit all the relevant paperwork. End of the financial year is a tough time, and nobody gives you a break. Nobody says, oh, this year we're going to suspend that so you can just pay attention to your family over the holidays. You know, while President Trump is doing all of these things, that would be really nice. Although I can't be greedy, he not only gave the veterans a bonus, and as a child of military parents, that would have been huge for us to get a bonus at Christmas time. So he not only gave them a bonus for federal workers, they got the day before Christmas, so tomorrow, Christmas Eve, and they got the day after Christmas, which in the UK and Australia is called Boxing Day. They get that day off. They don't have to go to work. So they got some more time off, which is fantastic. But just a mindset. I know in graduate school, it was tough because relying on financial aid and the university pay, they would pay us maybe 22nd, 23rd, 24th of December. Nobody ever stopped and said, why don't we pay the grad students that are working so hard? Why don't we pay them 2 weeks early so they have enough time to buy Christmas presents for their kids? Nobody ever decided to do that. And then again, we have this, which is an issue. My daughter I just got a call from my daughter. She must be hearing me talking about her. Moral and global fatigue. Now, I've mentioned many times about my ties to Australia. I lived in Australia for a long time. And in fact, I lived near where the terrorist attacks happened. I lived near Bondi Beach. In fact, I lived so close, I used to go on my daily walk. I used to go to Bondi Beach every day for my daily walk. I also worked in a lot of different communities, including the Jewish community. So when this attack happened and almost 60 people were shot by terrorists, 15 people died, including a 10-year-old girl. A lot of people, it's like, oh, that happened over there. It's not over there to me. I saw the same thing happen. And I mentioned this last week. I saw the same thing happen On 9/11, I had lived in New York for quite a length of time, but I was in California at the time. And Californians were working so hard to try to distance themselves from what was occurring. That's over there. That's not us. Well, no, it was us. And just always reading bad news, it gets a little overwhelming. So if you're feeling sad and tired and overwhelmed, you're not alone. But again, we're not going to leave you there. I'm not going to take you to someplace grim and dark and just leave you there. I just won't. What is happening if you are feeling just anxious, tired, overwhelmed? It's capacity overload. It's actually a physiological reaction by your body. It's not just because you just decided you're going to feel that way. And the high expectations for the day and the season, you become less easygoing. It makes you more anxious. It makes you more particular. It makes you more likely to snap and get angry or cry. This is a tough time of the year for a lot of people. But the way you feel overwhelmed, it's your nervous system doing it. It's not, oh, I just decided I'm going to be cranky. I'm just going to be the Grinch. I'm like Scrooge. No, your nervous system is actually causing you to react differently, to feel heavy, to feel down, to feel grim, to feel anxious. It interprets the forced happiness as just another pressure on top of the list. I know for myself, how do you feel about this? And give me your comments if you feel this way. I always loved holidays where you do certain things, like hang up Christmas decorations or have a turkey and a dinner. I don't like holidays where you're supposed to feel a certain way. It's one of the reasons I've always despised Valentine's Day, even when I was part of a couple, because it wasn't enough to just do something on Valentine's Day. You're supposed to feel romantic, and it felt so forced. I don't like being pressured like that. Neither does your nervous system. Your nervous system will start to react. If the load that's on you exceeds your capacity, your nervous system is going to start signaling to your primal brain that you're in distress. And it's going to cause a lot of problems. You don't want that, but it happens to a lot of us. You're going to be much more easily upset, whether it's yelling or tears. You're going to be irritable, or you could start to just feel really numb. You're watching beautiful things happen and everything's going well, and you're just emotionally, it's like you're wrapped in cotton wool. If that happens, it's probably your nervous system trying to protect you because it's feeling overwhelmed, and it's interpreting that as you being in distress, and it feels like it has to pull you back in order to protect you. So say to yourself, if you start to feel super emotional and moody, and your kids are like, and your spouse is like, wow, you are so moody, tell them and yourself, it's a load response, not a weakness. It's not you being moody. You're literally overloaded. And that's what's causing the problem. The load is too heavy on you. And it's perfectly normal. You'll probably start to get back to the way you were sometime in mid-January, as long as you don't overspend for Christmas, okay? Just feeling overwhelmed during the holiday season, guess what? Here's some good news. It's not a sign of a serious problem. It's a sign that you need to do something about it, and that's what we're talking about today. But it doesn't mean you have a serious psychological problem, no matter what your family says. Remember, it's a load problem. You're overloaded. It's a stacking problem. There's just too much being stacked on top of you, and it's causing your nervous system, without asking permission, to start reacting a certain way. There are so many parts of our brain that do not ask us before they have a certain response. It's one of the reasons when I do my training, we talk about the brain. Well, not extensively, and I keep it simple, but we talk about the brain because a lot of people believe they're fully in control of what they think and how they feel and how they react. No, you're not. Now, whether you give in to those impulses is in your control, but whether you have them, a lot of that is being processed on parts of your brain that are not asking your permission first. And it's one of the reasons we're going to do an episode just about the brain early in the new year, because I want to really arm you next year to be so on top of your game. I want 2026 to be your best year ever, okay? Until 2027. Let's make 2026 a really amazing year, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But again, remember, if you are under too much pressure, if there are too many things stacked on top of you, your nervous system is going to take over from you, and it's going to cause the heaviness, the dullness, the moodiness. It's going to cause all of that. Now, this is not a solution. Tell yourself, I just need to get up an hour earlier. Increasing your effort if you are overwhelmed is not a solution. You hear me? It is not a solution. The solution, you have to figure out a way to lighten the load. Your brain is telling you you're doing too much, you're thinking too much, you're responsible for too much, you're putting too much pressure on yourself, and or others are putting too much pressure on you. And it's causing you, in many ways, almost have a mini self-destruct. You're just going to, if you don't fix it, you might just completely shut down. Lighten the load. Now that's pretty easy to remember. I'm not moody. I'm just overloaded. I'm overwhelmed. The stack is too high. So we're going to talk about some solutions. Let's go to the solution phase, because I know a lot of you watch this show just to get to this part. We all know the problems, but I mean, how many of you knew that the way you behave is actually a brain process, nervous system process, and it has nothing to do with self-discipline, whether you're a good person, if you have good character, whether you're strong or weak? How many of you knew that? I want us all to be accountable, take accountability for our actions, but I don't want you to hold yourself responsible for something over which you have very little control. You got too much on you. It's going to cause you problems. Now, also, here's something that's going to be tough for a lot of people like me. I admit I am on social media quite a lot because I want to see what's happening in the world. One of the issues with having lived in 5 countries is that I still, and still working in 3 of them, is that I need a way of finding out what's going on. So I'm checking, the best source for world news is X. So I'm checking X quite a lot. But I realize, and especially with this new algorithm they have, I even wrote to Elon recently and said, can you please change the algorithm? Because if you like something, the algorithm will now send you a lot more material from that same perspective. That doesn't necessarily help you, because it makes you it will confirm, a confirmation bias is a bad thing, where you believe something is true because you keep seeing the same message over and over again. That's just how the brain works. And you'll also think a lot more people share that perspective because that's all you're getting time after time after time on social media. We need to have a wide range of views, but right now Mainstream media is so incredibly biased. I can't tell what's really happening in the world from looking at mainstream media. And it's unfortunate because one of the worst perpetrators of that is in Australia. I mean, Australian news all seems to be singing from the same song sheet. So I have to rely on people like my friend Melinda Richards to actually post what's really going on. But over this holiday season, if you are feeling overwhelmed, start to limit your exposure on social media. And here's something you may not have thought of. I had a romantic partner before I met my husband. I had a romantic partner, and his family every year sent out a newsletter with these lovely photos and all the family accomplishments in it. Now, never talked about the struggles, just made it look like it was the original social media, my life is better than your life competition. Instagram took over from that. I know you've read that the more time young people spend on Instagram, the more depressed they tend to be. Please, when you're thinking about the exposure and limiting your exposure, it's not just to people giving bad news or the world is coming to an end kind of news. You also should limit your exposure to people who keep providing an unrealistically positive impression of their lives because they're trying to compete with everyone else. It can make you feel hard done by, even if you felt you were doing okay. Limit your exposure. Now, also, when you're participating in family events, don't feel like you have to be the life of the party. Don't feel like you have to be and do everything. There are times when your presence is just enough. The kids will love playing their games with each other. You don't have to sit and be in the middle of it today. You can do it tomorrow or another time when you get a chance to actually decompress a little bit. It doesn't have to always be you. So just remember, you're even having your presence. What I wouldn't give to have my parents at a Christmas dinner with me, even if they never said a word. Your presence can be enough. So don't try to be the life of the party. All right, so let's look what else. Boundaries. Now, if you go back and look at the episodes where I talk about how to handle the holidays, I actually did specific episodes of this to help people out. You will see I will talk about boundaries. So you can plan the boundaries if it's at your house or if you're going to someone else's house. Things that you won't talk about, things you won't discuss, things that you're not going to get involved in, things you won't do. Have some boundaries and establish them before the day. It's not Christmas yet. You still have time. It can save the day and it can save your sanity if you have firm boundaries and you just say no. You don't need to give a long explanation. Just say no. A lot of you, the country has become so politically divided over the last 5 years. A lot of families now have to have rules about what can be talked about over the family dinners. Politics is often something nobody wants to talk about, especially if you have people with different political beliefs all in the same family. I know for my family, one of the issues, and anybody there have this problem? One of the issues was bringing new people to meet the family during the holidays. There's nothing my sisters love more than embarrassing me in front of people. Yeah. So having boundaries can be a good thing because I want you to get as much enjoyment out of it. Don't think of boundaries as a bad thing. Think of it as like having a little fence around your yard so your puppy doesn't get out. You can enjoy the puppy more if the puppy's not in danger. Not having boundaries puts your emotions in danger, and you don't want that. Solution, solution, solution. And I spoke about this at the top of the hour. Please plan ahead. If you have a family member that always drinks too much or doesn't help out or always starts an argument or whatever the issue happens to be, plan ahead. If you can get somebody else to coordinate with you, even better. But plan ahead. Don't go in just with crossed fingers, hoping that the day will be great. And don't even count on somebody who has misbehaved for the last 5 years and they told you, oh, I'm going to be good this year. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. What if they don't? What are you going to do? What about kids? If you have somebody has kids that are bullies, how are you going to handle that? Figure it all out for the day, before the day, and then when or if something happens, you already know what to do. And if there's anybody that's going to be there, any member of your family that's willing to help you with any aspect of it, accept the help. As long as there's somebody who will genuinely do it. We all know those kind of people who say, oh, I'm there for you for anything you need. And then as soon as you call them, it's not convenient. If there is somebody who's genuinely willing to help you, can be another way of easing the burden, taking the stack down, taking some of the pile on down, is to have somebody help you with some aspects of it. And if you accept someone's help, accept their help. Don't demand that they have to do everything perfectly or they have to do everything exactly the way you would. Part of delegation is taking your hands off of it. So before you accept the help from somebody, ask yourself, do they know how to handle this? And am I willing to trust them with it and take my hands off of it? You can't be a control fiend and really delegate. But it can help you enormously if you delegate so that you don't feel quite so overwhelmed on the day. Now, here's another thing that happens is that often we will do something called cognitive looping, where we will make choices and decisions, and then we keep saying, oh, is this right? Did I do this correctly? Oh, what should I do about that? And we add another very serious layer of pressure on our nervous system, on our brain, on our heads, because we continue to worry at something over and over again. What you should do is give as much thought and research as possible before you make a choice. Another thing that we've talked about many times on this show is that you should never make an important choice or decision in heightened circumstances, whether you're really happy or whether you're angry or really sad. That is not the time to make choices and decisions. Wait until you're calmer, get as much information as you can, and then make the choice or the decision. Once you make it, take your hands off of it. Let it go. Just like when you delegate. This is very similar to delegation, but this is about personal choices you made. Maybe you got a certain gift for someone and you keep saying, oh, did I get the right thing? Should I really have gotten that? If you made the decision and got the gift, let it go. Let it happen. You can consider what to do if it wasn't the right choice afterwards, but all you're going to do is just add so much pressure on your head and it won't change anything. Don't put pressure on yourself unless the pressure can actually improve things. When you're making new choices and decisions, that's pressure. Yeah, and we all have to do it. If we're adults, we all have to do it. But don't add to it by doubting yourself all the time. Make do the doubting, do the choosing before you push that button, before you push enter, before you push send, before you sign your name on the contract. That's the time to put some pressure on yourself. Once you make a choice, tell yourself, whatever happens now, I'm going to live with it. Here's something else that a lot of people need to know. And while I have a guy in the picture, I want to, oh, by the way, just an aside, has anyone else in business found this? I have a really hard time as someone who does slides every week. And if you don't know why I do the slides, it's because studies have found that if you have a relevant image with information, you're significantly more likely to remember the information. It's why I spend so many hours putting images on my show. I'm more than capable of just sitting here and talking to you and discussing these topics with no imagery whatsoever. The challenge with that is, even if you found it interesting, the probability is high that a lot of the key points you will not remember. I want you to remember them. Also, if you're busy, having the imagery means you can just not have the sound on and just kind of click through and still get an idea of what we were talking about. One of the things I've had a real problem with over the last several years for most of the stock photo sources is trying to find pictures of white men. Now, studies have been coming out this week, and there's been a lot of talk on social media about overt discrimination against white males over at least the last 10, 15 years. It shows up in imagery too. It is really tough to find, and to find a casually dressed white male often takes 3-4 times as long as finding an image of a casually dressed woman or a casually dressed racial or ethnic minority. It's like they want to kind of disappear white men off the planet unless they're in a professional capacity as a boss or something. But they don't live their lives anywhere because you can't find imagery. But rant aside, one of the things that it's important to remember, one of the benefits of the holidays is being able to get time off. If you're somebody who has a really stressful life, if you put a lot of effort into Christmas where the whole family was coming over and getting the gifts and everything else, you are entitled to some downtime. Whether you can do it at home or you need to go somewhere else, rest is a legitimate holiday activity. Please hear me, especially you women, because women have a tendency not to give themselves time off. And if you've not done it in the past, you may have, here's the boundaries again. You may have to have a little bit of a talking to your family because they may not be used to you actually taking time off, and they may insist that you still perform all of the duties that you have during the normal time, but you need to rest. Tell them too, show them this episode. Talk to them about having a problem with being overloaded and how it can actually cause you to have anxiety and lack of sleep and all sorts of problems that you cannot keep going at that level, that you need to get some downtime in order to continue to function at a high level. And when you're doing things, sometimes good enough is good enough. The more perfectionistic you are, the more pressure you're going to put on yourself for anything that you do, the more pressure you're going to get put on others if they are willing to help you. the more pressure you're going to put on anybody you delegate duties to. Just let it be good enough so that everybody still has enough energy left to be able to enjoy the day. Now, here's some other little points that I want you to do, because as I said, I always want to end on a high note. Everything I do is about, yeah, here's a problem. Let's identify the problem. Let's understand the problem. And let's talk about solutions. Let's talk about how do you fix it. Number one, sit back at the end of every day and give yourself credit for whatever went right. Anything that went well, give yourself credit for that. Give yourself some applause. It's too easy, especially if somebody threw a temper tantrum or something got overcooked or whatever happened. If something went wrong, it's too easy for most of us to focus on that and let that ruin the day. Don't do that. Don't let it ruin the day. Sit back and say, okay, the turkey was terrible, but it was hilarious ordering pizza. I'm glad that one pizza shop were ordering Indian food because they don't celebrate Christmas, so it's the only restaurant open. That kind of thing. It can give you a laugh. It can give the family a story to tell in future years. Don't let that negativity overshadow the day, and think about everything that went well. The weather was nice. Everyone showed up. We have so many blessings. Start counting them. And change your definition of success. If you start really counting the positive moments, even days that had a few things go wrong will go in the general win column, because a few things went wrong, but a far more things went right. And that's what you're going to decide to talk about, think about. That's where you're going to put your focus. Okay? Now, if you're not able to talk yourself into feeling happy, happy, joy, joy, because the pressure's just too high, no stigma, no blame. You're not alone. Don't feel bad about it. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just overloaded. It will pass once we get into January. You'll be fine. You're just overloaded right now. And this is how the normal brain, normal nervous system responds. Remember, one of the things it'll do to try to protect you is wrap you in cotton wool to try to emotionally keep you from getting hurt. It thinks you're at risk. Your brain, your nervous system thinks you're at risk. So it's trying to protect you. So it will withdraw you from the whole process because some part of your mind is wary that something bad's going to happen and it's going to hurt you. You're not alone in feeling that. Remember, it just happens like that sometimes. You may be simply responding to load. Let load be your word. Oh, golly, I'm feeling anxious. My load is too heavy. My load is too heavy. Remember, we talked about, what do I do if my load's too heavy? I figure out ways to lighten the load, right? I think, okay, what can I delegate? What am I overthinking? What am I trying to get perfect when it doesn't have to be perfect? What am I adding to the day that really doesn't need to be there? You're just responding to load, and you're going to lighten the load. And then after the holiday season, when we get to mid-January, okay, because next week we're going to be talking about planning for the new year, New Year's resolutions, how to have the best new year ever, how to increase the chances that your resolutions will actually work. We're going to talk about all that next week, I'm sorry. But when we get into January, when you get a little time and space, start thinking about, if the stacking was a problem here, if I had too much responsibility on me for this Christmas season. What can I do for the next holiday so that I don't have that happen? So don't just say, oh, it's got to be like this. No, you can always plan ahead and plan better. Don't beat yourself up, because I realize I'm telling you this 2 days before Christmas. So a lot of the feelings and emotions, and you may be feeling heavy already. You may be feeling distant already. It may be tough for you to actually shift gears at this point because we are so close to Christmas. But remember, old time isn't now. So after the event, I want you to promise yourself, and you can even add it to your New Year's resolutions next week. Promise yourself that you're going to plan better. You're going to plan ways to lighten your load so that when you have wonderful holidays, get-togethers, birthdays, weddings, whatever, that you're actually able to enjoy it because your load is not so heavy. Now, does anybody else have any questions or comments? And as always, if you have a question or comment, you can leave it below wherever you're watching this, okay? If you're watching it on recording on YouTube or Rumble, write the question below it. I will see it, okay? If you have a suggestion, if you have a problem in your life that you'd like to see what you can do about it. Because again, as a social psychologist, I not only talk about what will help, but I talk about what will help according to how our brain works. So it doesn't do any good if I help you and it lasts just a short period of time. I'm looking for lasting results, and I think that's probably what you're looking for as well. So any questions or comments? Also know that in the new year, I'm going to be offering online classes. This is going to be exciting. A lot of the topics that were really popular on Heart and Mind, and a few things that I offered in my work, in my job, in my company, I'm going to start offering online classes. And I'm talking about having an online class that's just a few dollars, but it gives you more insight and information into something where you can take those tools and use them right away. So we're going to have two levels. We're going to have the big online class where it's going to be as many people as who wanted to attend, no limit. And then we're going to have smaller classes that cost a little bit more, not prohibitive, still within a budget. And every single person who's taking that class gets personal one-on-one time with me so that we can adapt whatever we're talking about, whatever the topic is, to fit your circumstances, your desires, your needs, your life. So that's going to be coming with the new year, which is, less than 2 weeks away. Now, if you are someone who knows or is interested in my training, my education, my seminars, my keynotes, my Unmasking the Abuser program remains the only program for domestic abuse and violence prevention and improved response that offers measurable results. I also have a program called Healing the Rift, which is a program to build bridges and strengthen teams and affinities between people. It is not traditional diversity training where you tell people you're bad if you feel that way, or you're privileged. We don't do any of that. We look at what we have in common. We have a lot of fun, and we talk about specific ways to reduce bias in your choices and decision making. And also, if you're in Vegas or any place that is involved in gambling, I am a former commissioner for gambling and liquor regulation, and I have a really good gambling harm reduction education program. So here's the booking information. You can contact my agent and have me come in, just screenshot it, and I will be happy to work with you. We can work within any budget, and we can do it virtually or in person. So thank you, everybody. And I would say again, the easiest, best way to contact me I'm always on X. Go on X. My profile name is at Dr. Dina1. Talk to me. Put a question. Put a comment. Tell me what you need. Tell me any opinions on what we're doing. So I want you all to have a wonderful Christmas. I hope this information today helped. Have a great Christmas, and I will see you next Tuesday where we're going to talk about how to have the best New Year ever. Thank you and good night.